The Wellington Foundation Charity Gala was held at the Four Seasons Ballroom, a glittering affair with crystal chandeliers, a string quartet and 500 of San Francisco's wealthiest elite. Tickets were $10,000 per plate. My brother Marcus had purchased a table for 12 and insisted I attend. I should have known better. I stood near the bar, nursing a glass of sparkling water, acutely aware that my suit, a 3-year-old off-the-rack navy number from Macy's, made me stand out among the sea of custom Italian tailoring. My tie was slightly crooked. My shoes needed polishing. I looked exactly like what everyone assumed I was, out of place. There he is. Marcus's voice boomed across the room. He was walking toward me with a group of executives, his arm already raised to clap me on the shoulder. At 35, Marcus was everything our parents had dreamed of, VP of Operations at TechFront Solutions, a rapidly growing software company. Tall, charismatic, expensively dressed, and absolutely insufferable. "Everyone, this is my little brother David," Marcus announced to his companions. "The family tech guy." I forced a smile. "Nice to meet you all." "What do you do, David?" asked a woman in a diamond necklace that probably cost more than most people's cars. Before I could answer, Marcus jumped in. "He fixes computers in the basement. Tech support stuff. You know, when your printer jams or your email doesn't work, you call guys like David." The group chuckled politely. The woman's smile became slightly pitying. "It's honest work," said one of the men, a balding executive with kind eyes. "Nothing wrong with that." "Absolutely," Marcus agreed, his tone dripping with condescension disguised as support. "We can't all be executives, right? Someone's got to handle the grunt work. David makes, what, $15 an hour?" "Something like that," I said quietly, taking a sip of water. It was easier than explaining. Easier than watching their faces when I tried to tell the truth and Marcus talked over me or changed the subject. I'd given up correcting him 3 years ago, after a particularly brutal Thanksgiving dinner where he'd spent an hour explaining to our extended family why my hobby computer job wasn't a real career. "The problem is," Marcus continued, warming to his favorite topic, "David has no ambition. He could have gone into management, sales, something with advancement potential. But he's comfortable just coasting. Right, Davy?" I hated being called Davy. He knew that. "I'm comfortable with my choices," I said evenly. "See? No drive." Marcus shook his head with exaggerated sadness. "Our parents paid for his computer science degree at Berkeley." "Stanford," I corrected quietly. "Whatever, expensive school. And he's basically doing the same job he could have done with a high school diploma. It kills mom and dad." The executives looked uncomfortable now, sensing family tension. The woman with the diamonds excused herself to find the restroom. The others drifted away with murmured excuses about needing fresh drinks. Marcus either didn't notice or didn't care. He steered me toward his table where his colleagues from TechFront were already seated. "Everyone, this is my brother David. He's in tech support." The way he said it made it sound like I cleaned septic tanks. "Nice to meet you," said a polished woman who introduced herself as Victoria, TechFront's CFO. "David went to some fancy college but never did anything with it," Marcus explained, sitting down and gesturing for me to take the empty chair beside him. "He's been at the same entry-level position for years. No promotions, no raises. Just coasting." "That must be frustrating," Victoria said, looking at me with that same pitying expression I'd seen all night. "I'm satisfied with my work," I said simply. "Satisfied," Marcus laughed. "That's the problem. You should be hungry. Ambitious. Look at Richard here." He gestured to a young man across the table. "He started in our IT department 5 years ago. Now he's a senior systems manager. That's how you build a career." Richard looked embarrassed. "I'm sure David has his reasons for his choices." "Yeah, laziness," Marcus said, and everyone laughed because when the VP makes a joke you laugh. "I keep telling him to apply to TechFront. We're always looking for tech support guys. But he likes his little basement office, fixing printers for minimum wage." I checked my phone discreetly. 3 missed calls from my executive assistant and 7 messages from my legal team. The acquisition must be moving faster than anticipated. "Always on that phone," Marcus said, noticing. "Let me guess. Someone's computer crashed and they need you to reboot it?" More laughter from the table. "Something like that," I said. The evening dragged on. Dinner was served, filet mignon and lobster tail that I barely tasted. Marcus held court at the table, telling stories about TechFront's success, dropping names of clients and deals, making sure everyone knew how important he was. And at every opportunity he made sure everyone knew how unimportant I was. David still lives in a studio apartment, he mentioned during the salad course. Can you believe that? At 32? I offered to help him with a down payment on a condo, but he said he was fine renting. I didn't mention that my studio apartment was actually a 3-bedroom penthouse in Pacific Heights that I'd purchased outright 4 years ago. He drives a 12-year-old Honda, Marcus continued during the main course. I keep telling him to upgrade, but he says it runs fine. No sense of style, this one. I didn't mention that the Honda was a vintage NSX I'd restored myself, currently worth about $180,000. Or that I also owned a Tesla and an Audi R8, both parked in my building's private garage. And he's single, Marcus said during dessert, shaking his head sadly. Can't seem to keep a girlfriend. I think women are intimidated by guys with no ambition. I didn't mention that I'd been too busy running a company to prioritize dating, though I'd had several relationships that ended amicably when my work schedule became too demanding. My phone buzzed again. My CO, this time with an urgent tag. I excused myself and stepped out to the hallway. Chin, I answered. David, thank God. The Waverly board just accelerated the timeline. They want to finalize the acquisition tonight. All parties are standing by, but we need your signature on the merger documents within the next 2 hours or the deal falls apart. I checked my watch. 10 p.m. Where are the documents? Already sent to your encrypted email. But David, this is a $2.8 billion acquisition. The lawyers want to brief you on the final terms before you sign. And the Waverly CEO wants a video call to confirm everything personally. Set up the call for 11 p.m. I'll review the documents now and be ready. You're at that charity thing with your brother, right? Do you need us to send a car? No, I can handle it from here. Just make sure the legal team is available for questions. I hung up and pulled up the merger documents on my phone. 247 pages of legal terms, financial projections and integration plans. I'd been working on this acquisition for 8 months. Waverly Technologies was a smaller but innovative AI company that would perfectly complement our existing portfolio. There you are. I looked up to find Marcus approaching with several of his TechFront colleagues, including a silver-haired man I recognized from the company website as James Burton, TechFront CEO. David, I want you to meet my boss, Marcus said proudly. James Burton, CEO of TechFront Solutions. James, this is my brother David. The one I told you about. The tech support brother, Burton said, shaking my hand with the firm grip of someone used to business deals. Marcus speaks of you often. I'm sure he does, I said dryly. We're always looking for good IT support staff, Burton continued. If you're ever looking to move up from your current position, we'd be happy to have you interview at TechFront. That's very kind, I said. See. Marcus beamed. I told you networking at these events could help you. James here could get you a job that actually has benefits. Maybe even gets you out of that basement. Burton chuckled. We do have a very nice IT department. Above ground even. Windows and everything. My phone rang. I glanced at the screen. I'm sorry, I need to take this, I said. Always working, Marcus sighed to Burton. Even when he's at a social event. Someone's probably having a printer emergency. I stepped away and answered. Sarah, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong, but the Waverly team just sent over revised terms on the stock options package for their executives. It's within acceptable parameters, but I wanted your approval before legal signs off. Send me the revision. I'll review it in the next 20 minutes. You're still at that gala? Unfortunately. Want me to send security to extract you? We could claim a company emergency. I smiled despite myself. Tempting, but I can handle it. Just get me those documents. I hung up and turned back to find Marcus, Burton, and now several other TechFront executives watching me curiously. Everything okay? Burton asked. Just some work issues, I said. See, James? This is what I mean, Marcus said. David takes his job way too seriously. It's tech support, not brain surgery. But he acts like every computer problem is a 5-alarm fire. Attention to detail is important, Burton said diplomatically. It's tech support, Marcus repeated. The job is literally, have you tried turning it off and on again? David makes it sound like he's running NASA. The group laughed. I checked my watch. I needed to review those documents and get on the video call with Waverly's CEO in 45 minutes. Marcus, I said, I'm going to need to leave soon. Work emergency. You're kidding, Marcus groaned. The silent auction hasn't even started yet. What kind of emergency can tech support possibly have on a Saturday night? The kind that requires my immediate attention. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Marcus said to Burton. No boundaries. They call and he jumps. That's why he's stuck in the same position. Can't say no, can't delegate. Classic entry-level mindset. My phone buzzed with the revised documents from Sarah. I pulled them up and started scanning through the changes while Marcus continued talking about my supposed lack of career development. The numbers looked good. Waverly's executives were asking for slightly better vesting terms on their stock options, but nothing that would impact the overall deal structure. I quickly typed out my approval and sent it back to Sarah. Are you even listening? Marcus asked, irritated. Sorry, I said, pocketing my phone. What were you saying? I was telling James about how you've been at the same company for almost a decade with zero advancement. What's the name of that place you work at again? Some tiny startup. Something like that, I said. Probably one of those companies with like 15 employees total, Marcus explained to Burton. The kind where everyone wears jeans and thinks they're going to be the next Google. No real structure, no advancement opportunities. David's probably employee number 12 or something. Employee number 1 actually, I said quietly. Even worse. Marcus crowed. You've been there since the beginning and you're still in the same position? That's actually sad, David. Burton looked uncomfortable. Sometimes small companies can't offer the same advancement opportunities as larger organizations. Exactly, Marcus agreed. That's why I keep telling David to apply to a real company like TechFront. We have structure, clear career paths, benefits. Not some startup that's going to fold in 5 years. My phone rang again. This time it was the chairman of the board for my own company, a venture capital legend named Robert Chin, no relation despite the same last name, who'd invested early and served as my mentor. I really need to take this, I said, already walking away. See? I heard Marcus say behind me. No work-life balance. That's why he's single. I stepped outside onto the terrace. The cool San Francisco night air a relief after the stuffiness of the ballroom. Robert, I answered. David, the Waverly deal is accelerating. Are you prepared to finalize tonight? Documents are reviewed, revised terms approved. I'm scheduled for a call with their CEO at 11. Good. This is important, David. Waverly's AI technology could position us as the market leader in enterprise automation. But we need your signature tonight or they're considering the competing offer from Dataflow. I understand. I'll handle it. Where are you right now? Charity gala with my brother. Robert laughed. The one who thinks you fix computers in a basement? That's the one. You could just tell him the truth. I've tried. He doesn't listen. It's easier this way. If you say so. Call me after you sign the documents. I hung up and checked my watch. 30 minutes until the call. I needed to find somewhere quiet to conduct the video conference. I went back inside and found Marcus holding court with an even larger group now, including some of the charity's board members. David, he called out. Come here. I was just telling everyone about your job. I walked over reluctantly. This is my brother, Marcus announced. He works in IT support. Makes about $15 an hour fixing computers. We're very proud of him anyway. The group offered polite smiles. One woman, a board member in an elegant Chanel suit, said, everyone's contribution matters no matter the role. Exactly. Marcus agreed. That's what I keep telling David. Just because he's not successful by traditional standards doesn't mean he's not valuable. Right, buddy? Right, I said tonelessly. The problem is he's 32 and still in an entry-level position, Marcus continued. No advancement, no promotions. I keep offering to help with his resume, get him interviews at real companies, but he's stubborn. Some people are just content with simplicity, the Chanel woman said kindly. Not everyone needs to climb the corporate ladder. That's a diplomatic way of saying he has no ambition, Marcus said, laughing. But yeah, David's always been the simple one. I'm the driven brother. He's the Well, the other one. My phone showed a new email from the Waverly CEO. Subject line, ready when you are. Marcus, I need to go, I said. Work emergency. Seriously. Marcus looked genuinely annoyed now. What kind of emergency? Did someone's keyboard stop working? Something like that. This is embarrassing, Marcus said to the group. He's going to leave a $10,000 plate charity event because someone needs their password reset. It's a bit more complex than that, I said. Is it though? Marcus challenged. You're in tech support, David. Your entire job can be solved with Google and basic troubleshooting. You're not curing cancer. You're not running a company. You're fixing computers. I felt a flash of irritation but kept my voice calm. Nevertheless, I need to go. Wait, Burton said suddenly. He was looking at his phone with a strange expression. Marcus, what did you say your brother's last name was? David Chin. Why? Burton's face had gone pale. He looked at his phone, then at me, then back at his phone. And he works in tech? Tech support, Marcus corrected. Entry level. Why? James, what's wrong? Burton held up his phone, showing the screen to Marcus. I couldn't see what it displayed, but I watched my brother's face transform from confusion to shock. That can't be right, Marcus said slowly. What? Asked the Chanel woman. Burton cleared his throat. I just received an urgent email from my board of directors. Apparently, TechFront Solutions is being acquired. The group went silent. Acquired. Marcus repeated. By who? Burton's eyes met mine. By Waverly Technologies. Which is itself being acquired by. He paused, checking his phone again. By Quantum Dynamics Corporation. The silence deepened. I don't understand, Marcus said. What does that have to do with? Quantum Dynamics, Burton continued, his voice strange, is apparently one of the largest private enterprise software companies in the country. Revenue last year was $4.7 billion. And according to this email, the CEO and majority shareholder is. He looked up at me. David Chin. You could have heard a pin drop. That's impossible, Marcus said flatly. David works in tech support. He makes $15 an hour. Marcus, I said quietly, I tried to tell you. Tell me what? His voice was rising. That you're secretly a billionaire? That's insane. You drive a beat-up Honda. You live in a studio apartment. I drive a vintage NSX worth about $180,000, I corrected. And I live in a 3-bedroom penthouse in Pacific Heights that I own outright. The Chanel woman gasped softly. Burton was scrolling through his phone rapidly. David Chin, CEO of Quantum Dynamics. Age 32. Stanford Computer Science. Founded the company at 23 with venture capital from Chin Capital Group. He looked up. You founded your company 9 years ago? 9.5, I said. Current valuation according to this merger document. Burton's hand was shaking slightly. $12.3 billion. Marcus's face had gone from red to white. That's not possible. You work in a basement. You told me. I never told you anything, I interrupted. You told everyone I worked in tech support. I tried to correct you the first dozen times. You wouldn't listen. Eventually I stopped trying. But the Stanford thing, you said you went to Berkeley. You said I went to Berkeley. I said Stanford. You didn't hear me. The studio apartment. You assumed. I never said where I lived. Your job. I said I worked in tech at a startup. You decided that meant tech support. Victoria, the CFO, spoke up. Mr. Chin, if this is true, that means. It means, I said, checking my watch, that in approximately 15 minutes, I need to finalize a $2.8 billion acquisition of Waverly Technologies, which will then immediately acquire TechFront Solutions for $1.4 billion as part of a strategic expansion into the enterprise software market. Burton sat down heavily. You're acquiring my company. Technically Waverly is acquiring your company, but yes, I'm acquiring Waverly, which makes TechFront a subsidiary of Quantum Dynamics. Oh my God, Marcus said faintly. I need a quiet room with good internet for a video conference, I continued. Mr. Burton, I apologize for the informal setting, but the timing accelerated unexpectedly. I'd planned to handle this through proper channels on Monday, but Waverly's board wanted to finalize tonight. There's a private conference room on the second floor, the Chanel woman said quickly. She was looking at me with entirely different eyes now. I'm Sandra Wellington. I chair this foundation. I'll have staff set it up for you immediately. Thank you. Wait, Marcus said, his voice cracking slightly. Wait. You're saying you're actually the CEO and majority shareholder of a $12 billion software company? Yes, I said. Quantum Dynamics provides enterprise automation solutions to about 60% of Fortune 500 companies. We have offices in 18 countries and employ over 8,000 people. I founded it with a $2 million seed investment when I was 23, took it profitable within 2 years, and have been growing steadily since. The crowd that had gathered was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. The printer jokes, Marcus said weakly. All those jokes about me fixing printers and resetting passwords? I finished. Yes, those were memorable. But why didn't you correct me? I tried, Marcus. For years I tried. But you were so convinced of your narrative, the successful older brother and the failure younger brother, that you couldn't hear anything that contradicted it. Burton was recovering his composure. Mr. Chin, I apologize for any disrespect shown this evening. If I'd known, you'd have treated me differently, I finished. I know. That's why I didn't correct the assumption. I wanted to see how people treated someone they thought was beneath them. That's not fair, Marcus protested. I'm your brother. I was trying to help you. You were trying to feel superior to me, I corrected gently. There's a difference. Sandra Wellington appeared with a staff member. Mr. Chin, the conference room is ready. We have excellent Wi-Fi and complete privacy. Thank you. I turned to Burton. Mr. Burton, after I complete the Waverly acquisition, you'll receive formal notification of TechFront's acquisition through your board of directors. I've reviewed your company's operations extensively, and I have no plans for major restructuring. You've built a solid organization. Thank you, he said, still looking shell-shocked. However, I continued, glancing at Marcus, I will be implementing a company-wide review of management practices, particularly around treatment of junior staff and corporate culture. I've found that companies with respectful, supportive cultures tend to outperform those where senior leadership treats subordinates with contempt. Marcus's face went from white to red. I'll want a full report on TechFront's internal culture within 60 days of acquisition, I told Burton. Exit interviews, satisfaction surveys, documentation of any complaints. I'm particularly interested in how VPs treat their direct reports and whether there are any patterns of condescension or bullying. Of course, Burton said quickly. We take workplace culture very seriously. Good. I'll look forward to reviewing that data. I checked my watch. Now if you'll excuse me, I have an acquisition to finalize. I followed Sandra Wellington to the conference room, acutely aware of the stunned silence I'd left behind. The video conference with Waverly's CEO took 45 minutes. Terms were confirmed, documents were signed electronically, and by 11:47 p.m., Quantum Dynamics had officially acquired Waverly Technologies for $2.8 billion in a combination of cash and stock. At 11:51 p.m., Waverly's board authorized the immediate acquisition of TechFront Solutions for $1.4 billion. By midnight, my company had grown by 2 subsidiaries and nearly 3,000 employees. I thanked Waverly's CEO, congratulated their team, and ended the call. Then I sat in the silent conference room for a moment, processing what had just happened. Not the acquisition, I'd been planning that for months. But the confrontation with Marcus. The look on his face. The realization that his entire narrative about me had been wrong. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me just felt sad. My phone buzzed. Robertson. Congratulations, David. How does it feel to be a tech mogul with a $15 billion empire? Exhausting, I admitted. Your brothers still think you fix printers? Not anymore. Good. Maybe now he'll show you some respect. Maybe, I said. Or maybe he'll just resent me for making him look foolish. Not your problem. You tried to tell him. He wouldn't listen. I know. But he's still my brother. Then be the bigger person. But don't let him diminish you anymore. I won't. I hung up and headed back to the ballroom. The gala was winding down, guests starting to filter out. I found Marcus sitting alone at his table, his colleagues having dispersed. He looked up when I approached. His face was a complicated mix of emotions. Shame, anger, confusion, hurt. Why didn't you tell me? He asked quietly. I sat down across from him. I tried, Marcus. So many times. But you let me believe. I let you believe what you wanted to believe, I corrected. Every time I tried to explain my actual job, you talked over me or changed the subject. Eventually, it was easier to just let you think whatever you wanted. I thought I was helping you, he said, and he sounded genuinely bewildered. All those job offers, the resume help, the networking opportunities. I thought you needed my help. I didn't need help, Marcus. I needed respect. I needed you to listen when I talked about my work instead of dismissing it. I needed you to believe in me instead of assuming I was a failure. He was quiet for a long moment. I was jealous, he finally admitted. What? Have you? Even when I thought you were in tech support, I was jealous. Because you seemed content, happy. I'm a VP at a successful company and I'm miserable half the time. The pressure, the politics, the constant need to prove myself. And you seemed genuinely satisfied with your life. I hadn't expected that. Marcus. And now I find out you're not just successful, you're phenomenally successful. You're literally buying my company. And you did it all without bragging, without needing everyone to know how important you are. You just did it. It's not a competition, I said quietly. It's always been a competition, he countered. At least for me. Mom and Dad always compared us. Who got better grades, better jobs, better everything. I thought I was winning. There's no winning, Marcus. We're brothers, not opponents. He laughed bitterly. Easy for you to say. You're the one who built a $12 billion company. And you're a VP at 35 at a successful software company, I pointed out. That's impressive, Marcus. That's genuinely impressive. Not compared to. Stop comparing, I interrupted. That's the whole problem. You spent so much time comparing yourself to me, or to what you thought I was, that you couldn't see what was actually happening. He rubbed his face with both hands. What happens now? With TechFront? With my job? Nothing, I said. Burton runs a good company. I meant what I said about no major restructuring. You keep your job, your title, your responsibilities. You're not going to fire me for being an asshole? You're my brother, Marcus. I'm not going to fire you. But I am going to ask you to think about how you treat people. All people. Not just the ones you think are important. He nodded slowly. I'm sorry, David. For all of it. The jokes, the condescension, I know, I said. And I accept your apology. But things need to change between us. They will, he promised. I'll do better. Good. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus said, a vintage NSX, huh? I smiled. Want to see it? Really? Come on. It's parked in the private garage. We walked out together past the remaining gala guests who now looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Sandra Wellington caught my eye and gave me a small nod. Burton raised his glass in a silent toast. In the garage, Marcus whistled when he saw the NSX. This is beautiful. Thanks. Restored it myself. Of course you did. He shook his head. A penthouse in Pacific Heights? 3 bedrooms. Great view of the bay. Jesus. And I offered to help you with a down payment on a condo. You were trying to be kind, I said. In your own way. I was being an asshole. That too. We both laughed and some of the tension eased. David. Yeah. Can we start over? Like actually start over? No assumptions, no competitions, just brothers. I held out my hand. I'd like that. He shook it, then pulled me into a hug. I really am proud of you. I should have said that years ago. Thanks, Marcus. And I'm sorry for all those printer jokes. They were pretty funny, I admitted. They were terrible. Yeah, I agreed. They really were. 3 months later, I stood at the front of TechFront's main conference room, addressing the combined leadership teams of TechFront, Waverly, and Quantum Dynamics. We were finalizing the integration plans and establishing the new organizational structure. Marcus sat in the third row listening intently. After the presentation, he approached with Burton. David, excellent presentation, Burton said. The integration timeline is ambitious but achievable. Thanks, James. I have confidence in all 3 teams. After Burton left, Marcus lingered. Hey, Mom and Dad want to have dinner this weekend. They want to hear about the acquisition. And they want to apologize. Apologize for what? For believing my version of your life instead of asking you directly. I smiled. Tell them I'd love to have dinner. Great. When David? I've been thinking about what you said. About how I treat people. I started doing skip-level meetings with my team, talking directly to junior staff without their managers present. Getting their perspective on things. How's that going? Eye-opening, he admitted. Turns out I've been kind of a dick to a lot of people. The first step is awareness. I'm working on it. One day at a time. That's all any of us can do. My phone buzzed. Sarah, my CFO, letting me know we just closed another acquisition. A smaller AI startup that would complement Waverly's technology. Another company? Marcus asked, seeing my expression. A small one. 20 million. He shook his head in amazement. You know what the craziest part is? You're still the same David. Same calm, same focused, same guy who used to help me fix my computer in college. You just happen to run a tech empire. The job doesn't change who you are, I said. It just reveals it. That's surprisingly wise. I have my moments. We walked out of the conference room together, talking about Mom's cooking and Dad's new golf obsession and whether the 49ers would make the playoffs. Normal brother stuff. Because that's what we were, underneath all the job titles and company valuations and acquisition deals. Just two brothers trying to figure out life one day at a time. And maybe, finally, actually listening to each other along the way.